Hello and welcome back to another Midnight Showing. As always, I'm Kelly, and 2016 is finally over. Thank fucking God. Now, that's not to say that everything that happened in 2016 was a complete disaster. In fact, there were some pretty good things that happened. But let's not kid ourselves. We have a lot of bad things happen this year. And it doesn't really take much to look and point them out. On the small scale, from the personal stuff, even stuff to me this year really did suck, to the big stuff, especially the political side of things really sucked. And we're going to be feeling the effects of this last year for many years to come, especially inside of this first year of 2017. So, to start off the year for me, let's actually look at the best films of last year. Now, this is my personal list. These are my personal picks. I don't expect you to agree with everything, and I didn't actually see everything, especially the Oscar bait movies. That it baffles me that nobody is allowed to actually see the movies that get nominated for these Oscars because they don't ever release them. Seriously, most of them don't get released until 2 weeks after the year starts. Why the fuck would you do that? Let us, the general public, actually see these groundbreaking best pictures of the year. Seriously, what the fuck? Small tangent, but needed to be said. So yes, I did not see everything. I was out of commission for 2 months, and this last 3 months personally was really, really bad. So you may not see your favorite on here, but these are the personal favorites I had. So without further ado, let's get started in the top 10 best of the year. But to start things off, let's start with some honorable mentions. Honorable mentions. 10 Cloverfield Lane. Yeah, this was probably the best horror/thriller I saw this year. We had a lot of good surprises, but nothing that was really bumped up to best in my opinion. But it still needed to be stated that we did have some good come out this year. Sausage Party. Wow, this was one of the most uncomfortable films to ever actually watch, but I laughed my ass off inside of it. Still, not the best comedy I saw this year, but deserves recognition. Doctor Strange. Marvel did it again. They did it, and they gave us one of the most quotable superhero films I've seen in a long time. Seriously, are you not still hearing, Dormammu, I've come to make a bargain? Batman v Superman. The ultimate cut. And now, continuing with my tradition of pissing off people inside my honorable mentions before we even get to the list, yes, this does deserve an honorable mention, despite all of its problems. Notice I said the ultimate cut and not the theatrical cut. We'll be talking about that when I get to another list, but needless to say, if they'd actually released the ultimate cut, less people would be putting it on their worst list, and which is really, really biased choice, just saying. Now for the actual list. Number 10, Captain America 3, Civil War. Boom, baby! Oh yeah, you all knew this one was coming. I mean, seriously, most people have been putting this at their top, almost like top 3 and number 1. Personally, it still had plenty of problems. When you had a villain that was dumber than Lex Luthor and Batman v Superman, that says a lot. But the rest of the movie is amazing, with great action, great one-liners. You know, I just had to say the airport scene. That's all you had to say. The airport scene. Number 9. Rogue One. A Star Wars story. This had one of the coolest Darth Vader scenes in it, period. End of story. Okay, not really. Truth be told, I put this one on the list because it's my favorite Star Wars film next to probably The Empire Strikes Back. It was the most un-Star Wars thing I've seen in Star Wars, and I loved it for it. You can disagree with me if you want, but this is where it goes. Number 8. Hacksaw Ridge. After years of being ostracized, rightly so, Mel Gibson returns as a director in probably the most cheesy war film I've ever seen in my life, but I loved it. The acting was great, the humor was amazing, and the actual brutality of the war scenes is amazing, which just helps emphasize just how much of a great thing Desmond Doss really was to the situation. It's honestly one of those films I think everyone should see, even though I know plenty of people who won't because they're squeamish and it gets really bloody in the end. No, seriously. Number 7. Zootopia. Hey kids, you want to talk about racism and stereotypes? well, too damn bad! It never ceases to amaze me just how well Disney does at just taking these adult themes that nobody really wants to talk about or acknowledge and putting them into a movie so we can talk about them and acknowledge them in very, very meaningful ways. And making that understandable even for children. By God, just give Disney a hand. They did it again. They did it again.
Number 6. Miles Ahead.
Yeah, you're probably surprised to see this one on the list because, well, no one actually did a review of it. That's mostly because it had a very, very limited release in California only, in which, when I say limited, I mean like maybe 30 theaters across the state. But needless to say, I was looking forward to it when it finally did come out, and I found it on DVD, and needless to say, I loved it. This isn't your traditional bioflick. In fact, most of what happens in the movie is acknowledged to be either a hallucination or very loosely based on real things. But it actually gets you in the mindset of one of the greatest musicians ever. I'm not going to just say jazz or musician. No, just greatest musicians ever. And all of the messed up places that can take you. Seriously, I know that you haven't seen it. Go find it. You can probably find it at your local Target or Walmart inside their movie section. It's most likely still there. Just go see it. It's amazing.
Number 5. Star Trek Beyond.
If you know me or been paying attention for the last 6 months of any of my reviews, I am a Star Trek guy. I am not a Star Wars guy, which is why it's surprising there was both a Star Wars and a Star Trek movie on this list. But really, it shouldn't be a surprise that Star Trek made the list. I love Star Trek, and this was probably the best film we've seen from them since Wrath of Khan. Even though, truth be told, I have my own problems with Wrath of Khan, but that's for another review another day. It actually felt like these characters were growing in a very, very meaningful way, and the way they handled Leonard Nimoy's death inside of the film was beautiful. Even if I still have no idea where the fuck he got that picture of the original crew that they showed at the end. Because there's no way that he came through the time vortex portal thing with that on his person.
Number 4. Deadpool.
Now we get to the best comic book movie we all saw this year, and we all know it. For all of the praise that Civil War got, let's be honest, Deadpool, it deserved more. A clear passion project by both the writers and Ryan Reynolds. This is the best redemption of a comic book license I've ever seen. We saw them screw up Deadpool and X-Men Origins Wolverine, and now we finally get the real Deadpool here, who openly acknowledges that that is a thing, even has action figures of it that he's playing around with. That is just brilliant. And by God, you actually had your climax of the movie take place on a downed Marvel helicarrier in a continuity that is not yours. God damn it, Deadpool, you were awesome! Honestly, it's the best comedy I've seen this year, and you should all go see it if you haven't already.
Number 3. The Nice Guys.
And now we get to probably the most underrated film on this list. Seriously, this movie bombed in theaters. I don't know how that's possible. This is the most stylized, well-written movie I've seen all year, and yet it bombed. That blows my mind. Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe work off each other beautifully, and they would love to make sequels to this film. They said so in all of the commentaries on the special features. This is by far the most underrated film I've seen this year, and everyone needs to go see it immediately. Oh, but don't think Ryan Gosling has left my list yet, because we have...
Number 2. La La Land.
I wish so much that I actually had the time to record a proper review for this movie, but I don't. This is probably the single greatest musical I have seen in the last decade. And yes, musical, done in the style of basically Singing in the Rain, where people can just break into song whenever the hell they want. But it felt natural, like they could actually do that in real life. You know, they're playing the piano and they'll just suddenly start singing with each other. And by God, the way that it treats hardworking people, determination, dream seekers, jazz. It's a love letter to all of that and more. Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone are pitch perfect in this movie. And, well, I'm afraid that no one's gonna go see it. Once again, it's the Oscars. This actually came out December 9th, but I didn't get a showing in my theater until after Christmas. After Christmas! Are you fucking kidding me? With a movie that's this good. That boggles my mind. Seriously, if you haven't seen this movie, go immediately. You will not regret it. And thus we get to number 1. And I have to say this before we actually tell what it is. If you've been watching my videos, I basically called it back in August when it came out that this was going to be my number 1 flick. La La Land came very, very close to knocking it off. But I went back and rewatched the movie in question to make sure. And yes, it's the most mature thing I saw this year. It is probably got one of the best endings I've seen on a film, with some of the best animation I've ever seen. So, without further ado, you've already guessed it.
Number 1. Kubo and the Two Strings.
Oh my god, is this movie amazing. And it does just so many things that you don't see inside of, well, animated family films anymore. Real world dilemmas. Yes, Zootopia did something like that, but you have to admit, it still kidified a lot of it. Kubo never really did. It acknowledges the losses that everybody suffers in that film heavily. Very heavily. And they are real world. Yes, there is magic. There is guitar magic that folds paper into, well, attacking birds. But you know what? It actually acknowledged where that power came from and what it possibly cost Kubo to have it. The animation on it is leagues above anything I've seen in a long time. And you know what? That is really saying something when I saw about 15 animated films this year. Because it felt like there was one coming out every couple of weeks. And this one used an old school style of claymation animation. You know, frame by frame pictures. How do you do that? Well, you build one of the biggest props they've ever used and actually show them building it at the end of the movie, just to let you know how much effort went into this movie. Fuck me silly. And I can honestly say that the best movie I've seen this year was the one that put the most effort into everything. And that's it for my top 10 best of the year, with a few honorable mentions. Yeah, I know you didn't agree with me on some of these picks, especially putting Kubo at number 1, where a lot of people kind of ignored it off their list entirely. But hey, if you disagree, make your own list, or tell me what your favorite films of the year are in the comments down below, and maybe we'll get some healthy discussion going. And as always, if you like what you see, be sure to hit the like button, the share button, and subscribe for more. Be sure to follow me on all the Facebooks and the Twitters and the Twitches and all that stuff, all linked in the description below. Don't worry, I do have a worst of the year list coming. It's going to be coming up shortly after this one. I'm going to just put priority on editing this one. And I know I have like 5 reviews in my backlog, but I'm deleting all of them. I am deleting every single one of them, and I'm starting this year fresh. Right now. It's going to be this list, 2 more lists, a review, and an update video. That's what's on my plate right now. So be sure to subscribe and get notified for when the worst of 2016 comes up. And by God, it's going to come up. So yeah, that's it for me, and I'll see you all next time.